Hi there, it's Jeff here with an overview video looking at the theory of demand. So demand is the quantity that people are willing and able to buy at a given price in a given time period. Now, only if demand is backed up by a willingness and ability to pay the market price does demand become effective. The law of demand states that demand for a product varies inversely with the price. Lower prices make things more affordable for consumers on limited budgets. Higher prices reduce demand. So a fall in market price causes an extension in demand. A rise in market price causes a contraction in demand. So why does the demand curve slope downwards? Well, the substitution effect says that when something becomes cheaper, it becomes more attractive price-wise compared to other similar products. So people are likely to switch to the cheaper option, leading to an expansion of demand. There's also something called the income effect. When the price of something goes down, consumers effectively have more real purchasing power. With a given amount of money income, they can now buy more of the product. And again, that should increase demand. And also the theory of diminishing marginal utility. We have a video on that on our website. As people consume more of a particular product in a given time period, the theory states that the additional satisfaction or utility they get from each extra unit starts to diminish, which means they're willing to pay less for each successive unit. And again, that helps to explain perhaps the downward sloping demand curve. So explaining it, the income effect: if prices go down, the real purchasing power of consumers goes up, allows people to buy more with a given budget. The substitution effect, a fall in the price of good X, whatever that happens to be, makes it relatively cheaper compared to a substitute good Y. Some consumers, not all, but some will switch their spending to good X. Of course, much depends on the cost of switching and whether the products are close or weak substitutes. So here's a normal demand curve, downward sloping demand for coffee. Only changes in the market price of the product cause a movement along the demand curve. So a higher price from P1 to P2 leads to a contraction of demand for coffee. A fall in price of coffee leads to an extension or expansion of demand. Changes in factors other than price will cause a shift in the position of the demand curve. So effective demand, worth revising, worth repeating, is when demand for a good or service is backed up with an ability to pay. Latent demand or potential demand is not yet expressed in the marketplace because consumers don't have the ability or the financial resources to pay. Another important idea is derived demand. So this is the demand for a factor of production that's used to produce another good or service. So, for example, the demand for steel is strongly linked to the market demand for cars and also the changing demand in the construction of new buildings. Wood has a derived demand. It's a product where a lot of demand comes from uses to which it can be put, such as furniture and fencing. Minerals, as we'll see in a second, the demand for and the world price of cobalt and lithium has surged as global production of electric vehicles has grown. Derived demand from new homes affecting the demand for steel, to the take-up of e-cars, increasing demand for charging stations, and all of us having and using more digital devices, online streaming and using ChatGPT, increasing the demand for data centers and cloud servers. Joint demand is where the demand for one product is directly and positively related to the market demand for a related good or service. So typically two complements are in joint demand, and we'll see later that the cross-price elasticity of demand for complements is negative. Okay? Fish and chips, smartphones and apps, solar panels and batteries, pasta and pasta sauces, shoes and polish, flights and taxis are all good examples of products with joint demand. Composite demand. This is where goods in the market have more than one use. So an increase in market demand for one product can lead to a fall in market supply of the other as resources are switched. So milk can be used for cheese, yogurts, cream, butter, and indeed other products, including fertiliser. Land can be developed in many ways. Urban land has different uses from commercial and residential property. Corn has a composite demand. It's a staple food for human consumption. It's a feed grain for livestock and a raw material for making ethanol and corn syrup. So composite demand is where goods have more than one use. Butter, yogurt, milk chocolate and cheese. All good examples there of the composite demand for milk. So what causes the demand curve for a product to shift? First of all, changes in the price of other goods and services. Changes in the price of substitutes, which are in competitive demand. Changes in the price of complements, which are in joint demand. Changes in the real disposable incomes of consumers. Typically, when prices are rising faster than incomes, people have less money to spend in real terms, and that can cause a fall in demand. The effects or the impact of advertising and marketing to alter people's tastes and preferences in a particular direction. Note there the increasing value in theory of social influencers. Interest rates affect the cost of credit, demand affecting the demand for mortgages and new homes, for example, and many other products bought using borrowed money. Changes in the age structure of a population and also the size of a country's population, because the level and the age structure affects the pattern of demand for different goods and services. Seasonal factors for some goods and services, such as holidays and gifts. And social and emotional factors, behavioural factors, influencing our preferences and our choices and our willingness to pay for different products. So these factors here will cause a shift, a change in the position of the demand curve. Good example is lithium. Here's the projected global demand for lithium in the world economy. Lithium is an essential raw material used in manufacturing, used in batteries for EVs, used in smartphones and tablets, and batteries used in robots and other industrial tools. And you can see that in 2024, just under 90% of lithium's end use globally was for batteries, 5% for ceramics and glass, lubricants, greases, and so on and so forth. So the demand for batteries is causing a big outward shift in the global demand for lithium. So here are some shifts in the demand curve. Our original demand curve, if you remember, the coffee demand curve was D1. D1 to D3 is an inward shift of demand, meaning that less is demanded at each price. So we take price P1, so the people being willing and able to buy Q1, they now only buy Q3. Whereas D1 to D2 is an outward shift or an increase in demand, meaning that more is demanded at each price. Now at price P1, the quantity demanded is Q2 instead of Q1. So this diagram shows shifts in the demand curve. Another concept that we've talked about in the presentation is real income. So let's just quickly revise that. So real income is nominal income, or my money income, adjusted for the effects of inflation. And normally, if my real income goes up, I have the potential to buy more goods and services. But I'll only buy more normal goods where demand goes up with income. There are other products called inferior goods, where an increase in real income actually causes a fall in demand. Now, many exam questions ask you to analyse possible causes of shifts in demand and their impact on market prices, along with the revenues and profits for suppliers. It's quite important to distinguish between the demand for an individual firm's products, Samsung smartphones, for example, and the market demand as a whole, which of course is made up of many different suppliers.